Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to class. So today what we're going to be doing is a sequencing lesson. It's an ELA lesson, working with 2 kids right now on the 4th grade level. So let's just get started. So who remembers what we talked about yesterday?
Vocabulary words.
Very good. We were working on some vocabulary words. So today we're going to start with a vocabulary ball toss. And for this game, you're going to be handed the ball by me in an appropriate classroom manner, of course. And you're either going to answer the word in a definition or the spelling of the word. Okay? So for example, I'm going to toss it to Gabby here. Gabby, spell envied.
Envied, E-N-V-I-E-D.
Very good. So now you have the opportunity to pass it to another classmate, okay? And then you ask them for another word.
Okay. Joseph,
Yes.
spell gemstones.
Gemstones.
Very good. Now, Joseph, you can ask another person in the class to either spell the word or give you the definition. Go ahead.
All right. Gabby, can you say the definition for stepmother?
Yes. Stepmother, a woman who has married a child's father after the death or divorce of that child's mother.
Excellent. Now, Gabby, you can pass it right back.
Joseph, can you spell quaint?
Cuaint.
Oh, okay. Joseph, that's not how you spell it, so you're going to have to hand it back. Thank you. And now I'm going to give another student in the classroom the opportunity to spell it correctly. So does anyone else know how to spell it correctly? Raise your hand. Here you go, Gabby.
Quaint.
Okay, very good. Let's do 2 more words, okay? Gabby, go ahead. You can call on someone.
Joseph, can you define wicked?
Very mean or bad.
Wicked. The word is wicked, Gabby.
Okay.
Very good. You got the definition right. Excellent, Joseph. Now pass it on. Last one.
Gabby, can you spell seized?
S-E-I-C-E-D.
Okay, someone else give Gabby a hand, please.
It's actually spelled Seized.
Very good. Okay, guys. Now that we're all warmed up, let's talk about transition words for our sequencing, okay?
Okay.
Now, what do we think transition words are?
Words.
Or just give me an example of a transition word you've heard of. For example, go ahead.
Finally.
Finally is a transition word. What does the word finally tell me?
It's the end of the story.
Very good. It's towards the end of the story. Excellent. So what if I use the transition word in the beginning or once upon a time?
It's the beginning of the story.
Very good. The beginning of the story. So transition words are words that tell you time frames, or some sort of sequence in the story. Okay? Okay. So let's fill out this word web together. Transition words. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Joseph said already, finally. All right. Gabby, you have one?
First.
First, very good. Now someone give me the opposite of first. Joseph.
Second.
Second. Okay.
Last.
Last. Very good.
Next.
Next. And what does the word next tell me?
Something else is about to happen.
Yeah, very good. Really just something's going to be happening next, right? Okay. Next word.
Morning.
Morning. Very good. Now what is morning telling me?
That it's day outside.
Yeah. So the time that the story is taking place will be in the morning. So, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whatnot. So if Gabby said morning, can you give me another time transition word?
Afternoon.
Good. Okay. Anyone else? You guys can give me a few more.
Evening.
Evening. Excellent. Okay. Any more?
Then.
Then is a good one, right? We use the word then a lot, all the time, right? Okay. One more?
Beginning.
Very good. Okay. So I'll leave this up here for you, and you will be writing this in your notes. So please take out your notebooks and copy down this word web that we have up here. I'm gonna give you a minute or so to copy this down. And like I said, this will be up on the board for reference. And at a later time and date, if you need to look back at your notes, you have it in your notebook to do so, okay? And I had the vocabulary words covered up just for the game purposes, the ball toss, but it is also on the board for your reference, okay? Okay, if you're finished, you can close your notebooks just so I can know that you are actually done. Okay, so I see everyone's finished here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to read the story Hansel and Gretel. Has anyone heard that story before?
Yes.
Raise your hand. Yep. Yeah, it's a pretty common fairy tale, right? But we're gonna be reading this together, okay? So, Joseph, if you could please hand out the highlighters to you and your partner. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Okay. Throughout me reading the story, I'm going to check for comprehension and understanding. Okay, so everyone please pay attention so we can move on to the next part of our lesson. Okay, Hansel and Gretel. A German fairy tale retold by Catherine Follett, illustrated by Letizia Rubigini. For 3 summers, frost killed the apples and froze the wheat. Hansel and Gretel's family had nothing to eat but last year's moldy potatoes. Their father became weak-willed and faint, and their stepmother's once glad face grew thin and sharp. Hansel almost envied his sister, who was too young to recall happier times. One morning, father beckoned the children. "Come with me for a walk in the woods. Perhaps we can find some mushrooms." Gretel happily followed. "Where are we going?" Hansel asked. Father turned his head, glancing back over his shoulder. Hansel spied their stepmother watching from the front window, and he got a bad feeling. Father furtively squeezed a small crust of bread into Hansel's hands and whispered, "Here, our last bit of bread." Hansel wanted to tear the bread in two, give one half to Gretel, and gobble down the other. But he couldn't shake the worry from his mind. Something about the way his stepmother had glared at them from the window made him uneasy. Though his mouth watered, Hansel regretfully tore the bread into crumbs and dropped them as he walked, marking their path as Father trudged deeper and deeper into the forest. Then, in a dark dell, Father stopped, his hands and voice shaking. "Your stepmother and I just don't have enough to feed you. There is a village just over this hill where you may find another family." Hansel hesitated. He felt sick to his stomach. "Do as I say," Father pleaded, "for your sister's sake." With that, he slipped into the shadows and hurried away. Gretel cried out and chased him, but she soon fell behind. "Don't worry, Hansel," said, holding her shoulder. "I made a path." He pointed to the breadcrumbs, bright against the dark forest floor. Gretel sniffled and stayed close as they followed the crumbs towards home. "You didn't make a very good path," Gretel pouted. Hansel thought he'd drop a crumb every 3 steps, but he kept losing the way. Suddenly, a little sparrow swooped down, grabbed a crumb, and fluttered into the trees. "Birds are eating your crumbs," Gretel cried. Though they searched, Hansel and Gretel could not find the path. Shadows pressed close all around, but Hansel remained calm. Father said, "The village isn't far away," he said. The gloom grew deeper and deeper. Just when he was sure Father had lied to them, Hansel saw light beaming through the trees. "Look, there's a clearing up ahead." Okay, Gabby, do you want to take over for this page?
The woods parted to reveal an astounding scene. In a sunny meadow sat a quaint cottage made entirely of sweets. Frosting icicles dripped from the eaves, ribbon candy lined the windows, and slabs of chocolate shingled the roof. Seized by hunger, the children stumbled forward, broke off pieces of the house, and devoured them. The sweetness on Hansel's tongue almost made him dizzy, and he didn't hear the door swing open. "Do I hear little mouths nibbling on my house?" a small voice said. A tiny old woman with cloudy eyes and a smile as sweet as her candy house beckoned them. "Please come in." Swooning with sugar, Hansel and Gretel happily followed her inside.
Okay, Gabby, call on someone else, please, to continue reading.
Joseph.
Where are we?
Oh, okay. Well, you see, Joseph, now that you don't know where we are, we have to pause the lesson just so you can find where we are in the reading, and that delays everything. So please, next time, try to pay attention. We are on page 8, the first paragraph, the top.
The old woman chuckled as she blindly felt her way around the small house, bringing plate after plate of gingerbread cake and a pie. When the children were finally full, she made up an enormous feather bed and then drew a treasure chest from her shelf. "I don't keep many toys around, but I have these old things," she said, tossing Hansel something green and shiny. It was an emerald the size of his fist. He and his sister played marbles with the huge gemstone until they dozed off by the crackling fire.
Very good. Okay, so can someone tell me really quick what happened at the beginning of the story? What's going on with Hansel and Gretel, and what happened to the father and stepmother?
The father took them into the forest and left them there because he said they didn't have enough food to feed them.
Okay, very good. Very good paying attention. What did they find in the woods, Joseph?
A house?
Very good. A house made of...
Gingerbread?
Yeah, gingerbread, candy, all sweets, right? Okay, let's go to page 9. Everyone on the same page? Okay, great. Breakfast was waffles piled with strawberries, peaches, and whipped cream. Oh, the story is making me really hungry. Okay, sorry. I'm so happy to have company, the old woman sang. I wonder, though, if you would mind doing a few chores for me. My eyesight isn't so good anymore. Of course, Hansel cried. The woman handed Gretel a broom and pointed Hansel to a broken candy cane latch on a high window. It's too tall for me. Maybe you can climb to that bird cage and reach it from there? A huge empty bird cage hung from the rafters near the window. Hansel stood on the table and hoisted himself inside. He heard a click as the cage door swung shut behind him. Gretel didn't see the cage door close, but she heard the click and saw a wicked smile flash across the old woman's face. Hansel jostled the door, but it was latched tight. What happened? Gretel asked. Get back to work, the woman snarled, her voice suddenly low and cruel. Gretel gasped. Isn't it comfortable up there? The old woman cooed at Hansel. Here's some more cake to keep you occupied. You're a bit thin now, but you'll fatten up soon enough. The hair stood on the back of Gretel's neck, but she was too afraid to object. Is there anything else I can help you with? She asked the old woman, masking her shaking voice with false cheer. Oh, there's plenty, the woman hissed, bringing out an old mop, a rusty bucket, and a dirty rag that looked especially loathsome against the sugared walls of the candy house. Who remembers what the word loathsome means? Raise your hand. Go ahead, Joseph.
Causing extreme dislike or disgust and very unpleasant.
Okay. So do we agree a dirty rag would be loathsome?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. Okay, next page, page 11. Gretel scrubbed the floors, shook out the bedding, and washed the dishes, always with one eye on the old woman. Every day, the woman shoved another mound of treats into her brother's cage, then reached up and seized his arm in her claw-like grasp. As time passed, Hansel's arm filled out and grew soft. The woman smiled a way that turned Gretel cold. Gretel was too small to reach the cage or fight the woman. She felt helpless, but one evening, as she swept up after supper, she spotted a chicken bone in the dustpan, and it gave her an idea. After nightfall, Gretel tossed the bone into Hansel's cage. Give this to her instead when she grabs your arm, she whispered. From then on, when the woman reached up for Hansel's arm, she pinched the bone. Why aren't you getting fat? She demanded, growing more frustrated each day. Finally, the old woman cursed under her breath. I'm not waiting any longer. Girl, fill that big crock with water and fetch enough wood for a hot fire. Gretel's stomach dropped. She felt sick, but she did as she was told. What do we think is going to happen next?
She's gonna cook the brother for dinner.
She's gonna cook the brother for dinner. And why do you think she was trying to feed him all this cake and sugar and sweets?
To fatten him up.
Very good, to fatten him up for dinner. But unfortunately, her plan is flawed. When the water began to bubble, the old woman tottered to Hansel's cage. She had to stand up on a chair to open the door. This was Gretel's chance. With all her strength, Gretel swung her broom at the cage, knocking it from its hook. As the cage and Hansel came crashing down, the woman stumbled backward and fell. Hansel squirmed free and leaped to his feet as the old woman slowly stood. Hansel and Gretel rushed at her together, pushed her into the open cage, and slammed the door shut, trapping her. "You wicked children! Let me out!" Hansel snatched the treasure chest from the shelf, and together the children fled into the forest. They ran until both were exhausted. They were back where they'd started, lost in the woods with darkness coming on. But Gretel felt stronger and less afraid than before. They decided to head downhill in search of home. "What's that?" Gretel whispered. The sound of a distant voice calling their names seeped through the trees. Still afraid, the children ducked into the underbush. The voice came closer and began to sound more familiar. Just before the source came into view, Gretel realized who it was. Wait, before turning the page. Who do we think is that familiar voice?
I don't know.
No? Do you know? You have any ideas?
No.
No? Okay, let's find out then. "Father!" she shouted, leaping into the man's arms. He was thin and ragged, his eyes red from weeping. "My precious children," he cried, swinging Gretel into the air. "I'm so sorry for what I did. I sent your stepmother away, and I've been searching for you ever since." The family was overcome with happiness, but then Father got a sad look in his eyes. "We still have no food," he admitted. "Soon we will have all the food we could hope to eat," Hansel announced, revealing the chest of gemstones. Their weeping turned to laughter that rang through the forest. Together, they headed over the hill towards home. Okay, what did we think of that story, huh? Was it a happy ending? Was it a sad ending? Did it surprise you? Happy ending? Why do you say happy ending?
Because they finally have money now to afford food.
Very good. What do you think, Abby? Did you like the ending?
Yeah, they were reunited with their dad.
Very good. Okay, so now we're going to start our sequence of events. Okay? So what happened? We have 4 boxes here, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And what are we supposed to do first when we receive a worksheet?
Put our name and the date.
Excellent. Name and date. Okay. And what's the next thing we should do when we have a worksheet like this?
Read the instructions.
Very good. Excellent. So can you read the instructions?
Draw a picture and describe the events of a story in sequential order. Make sure to use transition words and unit vocabulary words.
Okay. So on the rubric that you have, it says that I'm going to require, like the instruction said, the use of transition words, and I need you to be as detailed as possible, okay? Using your vocabulary words that you also have learned for the lesson. And with that, please make sure your spelling is correct and you are using the correct grammar and punctuation in your sentences, okay? So you are allowed to actually work together in completing this, okay?
Mm-hmm.